Hey there, Canadian drone fans. It's Rich G here for another edition of Canadian Drone Pilot. Today we're going to talk about how you are going to use the DJI Assistant to update your Mavic Mini. Yep, that's it. Now, there's been some issues reported about the latest update, and some people are experiencing them while others weren't. And that could be due to possibly the update not quite taking 100%. So I wanted to show you a way that you could reapply the update even though it's already installed, or if you're installing the update for the first time and you want to do it with your computer, here's the steps to do it with the DJI Assistant 2. All right, the first thing you got to remember is when you're doing an update, you want to remove your gimbal cover because you are going to be powering on your drone, and you want to take out the SD card. We're going to set those aside. Those have been removed. Obviously, the other thing you want to ensure you do is you have a battery. You have a battery in here, and you have, a reasonably full to, 50-60% charge is good. Okay, that's all good. You also want to ensure that you have your charge cable or your communications cable. Now, if you have the Fly More kit, you'll get 2 of these. If you have just the basic package, then you'll just have 1 of these. Either one will work fine. It doesn't matter, okay? So you're going to take this end and you're going to plug it into your MacBook or your Windows PC, and we'll have this end ready. Now keep in mind, this is a small micro USB connection on this end, and you want to be mindful of the orientation, okay? As you can see on mine here, put a little, mark on there telling me which is the flat side. So for example, if I've got my controller and this would be normally facing me, and I simply just plug that in and I'm done. On the drone, keep in mind that it's reversed, well, actually flipped. So where my mark is, I would actually turn that around flat down so that basically the curve of the connector is at the bottom, and of course that's just going to fit right into the back of the drone, okay? So you want to make sure that in your mind you've got the orientation right. I'm going to show you on the computer on where you can go to download DJI Assistant 2, not DJI Assistant, okay? And as we can see here on this screen, you want to choose the one DJI Assistant 2 for Mavic, okay? And that's just going to refresh on my screen there. And whether you're Windows or a Mac, you can download the executionable for Windows or a zip file, and it's a package file for Mac. And what we want to do is take a look here. Mavic 2, Mavic 2 Enterprise, DJI Smart Controller, Mavic Mini, and Mavic Air 2, okay? So you want to make sure you've got the right DJI Assistant. So now that we've downloaded that and we've installed it, okay? Interesting screen to read here, okay? It says, if the product you purchased is a Mavic Mini, follow the steps to connect to the DJI Assistant 2. Disconnect the device from the computer. Well, we don't have it connected yet. Restart the device. Okay, well, we're going to start the device and connect the device to the computer within 20 seconds. Now, remember I said that there was a mention of 20 seconds? Well, it's actually shorter than that. You've got more like 5 seconds. And I'm going to press this once, and it tells me the indicator lights for the battery. You do want a reasonably fully charged battery, or at least over 50%, okay? So pressing once, and then press once again to hold it, to turn it on, and we're going to plug. As soon as we hear that chime, we're going to plug the cable in, and now we're going to give it a moment or two. It usually takes a few minutes for it to fully do the handshake and connect. As you can see now, we have the Mavic Mini come up. All right, so all I have to do is click on the Mavic Mini, and it'll take a few moments. And what it's doing is it's checking for the latest version on the DJI site, and then looking and reading what you have on your drone. So as you can see here, we're at the latest version. So it says current, and it's version 1.00.0500. And you can see the date, the year 2020, April 21st. It's an official release. Now here's the refresh, and here's release notes. So this tells us what this firmware update was for. Optimize remote controller performance. They suggest calibrate the remote controller if it's beeping after the update. I calibrated anyways, mine did not beep. I also did an IMU calibration, a compass calibration, and a gimbal calibration, just to be on the safe side. It doesn't hurt to do that, especially after a firmware update. It says it added manual exposure to videos. You have to have the Fly app version 1.0.8 or greater. I believe the latest version of the Fly app now is 1.1.0, so you should be fine. If you have been experiencing any issues with, let's say, the update that you originally downloaded using your mobile device connected to your controller, you know, you've replaced the props and you're still getting some weird error messages here and there, what you can do, we'll look back at the screen here, is you can choose this refresh option. And what that'll do is it'll send the firmware back into the aircraft and refresh it. So just in case something didn't take quite 100%, that's something that you can do. All right. You can also export logs. So if we go to export logs here, I'm not going to do this, but just in case you're working with DJI support, you've got some issues, you can export some logs here and DJI support will get these, because when you log in the DJI Assistant 2 for Mavic, you do get your account come up because you've already created an account on the DJI site. And of course there's a simulator, but you know, we're not going to get into that. So I'm going to go back one screen, back to the DJI Assistant 2 for Mavic home screen, we'll call it. And we'll just give that a moment to load. Okay, there it is there. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see, there's my account there, and I have the option here to, you know, there's my account, user email, I can log out. In here under settings, I normally check all these off, but it's entirely up to you. I'd like to get, I don't mind sharing data with DJI because it helps them to improve their products, so I'm okay with that. So watch this icon here. Okay, this is going to disappear because what I'm going to do is I'm going to power off the drone. So once press again, power it off. And I'm going to unplug the cable now safely. As you can see, the screen's gone back, the screen as it was before. So now what we're going to do is we're going to check the firmware level on the controller. We're going to power on our controller, right? So we're going to do one press, checks the battery, and another press and hold powers the controller on. As soon as you hear that, plug the cable in. Okay, so we have the cable plugged in. And now the DJI Assistant connect with the controller and we'll be able to validate. There it goes there. And there's our remote controller right there. So it's going to load up the screen and it's going to show us the firmware version. We've got 01.000500. It's current. Same issue date. It's official. And if we hit the release note on this, added support to adjust operation frequency in Ukraine. That's awesome. This is communicating, and you can tell this is communicating and not charging because we've got all of these flashing at the same time. So there's data going back and forth between the USB cable and the DJI Assistant 2. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to disconnect safely. So you just don't want to pull the plug. We want to be able to go back one screen, which is always a safe thing to do. And we're going to wait for it to get back to the screen where it's seen the controller. Oh, so there's the Mavic Mini controller right there. And I'm simply going to press once and press again, and I'm going to power off the controller. That should disappear, as you can see there. Okay, so we're going to unplug that. So essentially we're done. You do want to remember is to put your SD card back in your drone. And we're going to launch the Fly app. Okay, so the Fly app is launched. We've got our controller plugged in, nothing powered on yet. So we're going to power up the drone first. Press once, press again to hold. Okay, it's up. Now we're going to power up our controller. Always make sure you unfold the antennas. Press once, press again and hold. We should see this coming to life here shortly. Okay, and as you can see on the screen here, and it's a bit dark there because I have a neutral density filter on there. And if we go to about, there we go. Okay, so we can see that we have the aircraft firmware, RC firmware, which is your remote control, is the same. Your FlySafe database is updated, and your app version is 1.1.0. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the final step here in our process, and one of the most important ones after doing a firmware update on the Mavic Mini, especially this particular firmware update, because as we noted in the firmware update notes, it said if your controller was beeping, you should do a RC controller calibration. But mine wasn't after the update. but I did this process anyways, as well as the gimbal calibration and the IMU or compass calibration. So let's get started. So we're going to power up the aircraft first, and you'll see that the gimbal does an initialization, which is great. And then we're going to power up our RC controller, and then we should see it automatically connect. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to choose Go Fly, and you'll see a histogram come up. That's fine, just don't worry about that. So we're going to go to the three-dot menu in the top right corner, and we're going to go over to Control till we see Gimbal Calibration. We're going to choose that, and as it says here, place aircraft on a level surface, calibrating gimbal, keep aircraft stationary. No problem. We're going to hit Auto, and it's going to go through a countdown timer and do a gimbal calibration. And we can just see that the camera's moving back and forth. And it's almost done. Perfect. Gimbal calibration is successful. Excellent. All right, so let's get to the next stage. The next stage is RC calibration. We're still in controls. As you can see, there we have RC calibration. These are calibrating the control sticks and your gimbal dial adjustment on the back. And it says here, power off aircraft and calibrate the RC. I'll press it again. Calibrate the remote controller. So it wants us to power off the aircraft because this is a remote controller calibration. It's powered off. We're going to choose RC calibration again, and now it lets us do the RC calibration. It's okay, so we're going to hit start. And a couple of beeps there to say that we're in calibration mode. Is the left stick, then push all the way up. Okay, and then push all the way up again. Now there's no particular order that you need to do this in. But what you want to do is now I'm moving the right stick in all orientations, as you can see. Okay, now let's move over to that dial that's in the back at the left. So we're going to move the dial one direction, and then we're going to move it again, and then going to go opposite. And as you can see on the screen there, see how the line was white at the beginning, but now it's green. Green is good. It's telling us that it's happy with that range and it's calibrated. So the right control stick, so we're going to press up, we're going to press down, and we get that again, down again. I always like to do it a few times. Up and up again, and then to the right, nothing, but to the left, and to the left again, and then finally to the right. And now the calibration is successful. Now we're going to power on the Mavic Mini so it connects to the RC controller. Going to let it come to ready, and when it does, it should give us a camera feed. Here we go. Perfect. We're connected. So there's our IMU and compass. Okay, so right now they're saying they're normal, but I would calibrate the IMU and calibrate the compass. In order to do an IMU calibration, choose calibrate and place aircraft on a level surface. So you can see in the camera the aircraft is still on, okay, but we've got everything folded up. All right, so keep aircraft powered on and avoid starting the motors. Well, yeah, we're not going to touch that. Hit start. Place the aircraft on a flat dry surface as shown. Perfect. Now they're saying we want it flipped over on its side, so we're going to do that. Be careful of your props. Now it's asking us to flip it on the opposite side, so we're going to do that. And again, just being gentle because you've got the props that are all loosey-goosey floating around. Now it wants us to stand it up, so we're going to stand it up, and now upside down. So we're going to take it and we're just going to lay it on its back, and it's restarting the aircraft. Of course, the thing's upside down. Calibration is successful. Okay, so I'm gonna fold out my legs again and my arms here on the aircraft. Now the compass is normal, but we're going to try to do a compass calibration. I'm doing this indoors, so we'll see how well this works. We're going to choose calibrate. Now it's showing it folded here. You can do a compass calibration with the arms folded. You can do it with the arms out. So we're going to hit start, and it's saying rotate the aircraft 360 degrees. We're simply going to spin it around. Okay, it's satisfied that. So now we're going to tip it up on its side, and now it wants us to rotate the aircraft this way. Okay, and calibration is successful. So the IMU has been calibrated, the compass has been calibrated. Now, of course, I'd probably do a compass calibration when I get back out into the field. You've literally recalibrated everything, so now would be a good time to test and fly. Check your props, okay? If your props are at all like nicked, if there's any issues with them at all, if you slide your finger along them, you'll notice that there should be nothing catching. It should be pretty clean. If there's a lot of nicks and cuts into the blades, then you definitely want to replace them. Try replacing the prop and see if that solves the issue. If it doesn't solve the issue, then I would strongly suggest doing this firmware refresh using DJI Assistant 2. For now, it's Rich G signing out for another episode of Canadian Drone Pilot. Take care.